Act
Totally
cool.
natural
Act
and
cool.
comfortable.
Don't look frustrated at all. Welcome to Kim McVicar Podcast. Today, my guest is
Jay Light, hi.
Hey Jay. How do you want to intro? I always have everyone intro themselves. Is there like what do you want to? Because I feel like I can tell what I think people do for a living, and then they have a whole different game plan. So I don't know. How would you like? What
How
do
would
you?
I introduce myself?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the most succinct thing is like comedian and writer, and then I also host a game show, but it's a comedy game show. So that is just like tacking on extra shit to the end, which the writer side of me does not like.
Oh, really?
The writer side of me is like, there's too much extraneous shit going on here, so I just got to say comedian and writer, and then under the umbrella of that exists all of my comedic output.
I mean,
I think
yeah,
that's
because it feels
smoother.
like comic implies doing like producing shows and things like that to me.
I think so, but also this is you've the game show thing. It's weird because it's like
It is different, I guess. Yeah. Game shows
it's
are different.
different. They're different. They're a whole different thing.
So let's talk about your game show. So you have a game show. I believe it's called Wrong, right?
Yeah, it's called Wrong, a fucked up game show. We do it monthly at the Comedy Store in LA and occasionally elsewhere. We're basically at a place now where we're doing like 2 shows a month, one in LA and then one on the road somewhere.
Cool. When you do it on the road, do you find locals that like are comics in that
always.
area? Is it always comics, or do you ever have like I don't know?
We haven't had
just
any
actors or
non-comics
something?
on yet.
Okay.
It's always been comics. I feel like the closest we've come is we've had not stand-ups on, but we've had comedy type people on.
Mm-hmm.
Like we did Edinburgh Fringe this summer, and when we were out there, we had some clown performers on there. We've had more clowns here in LA, but we've done like the sort of clown thing. We've had some musical comedians on. I've had like improvisers on in the past, but nobody who's not at least like a comedy person first.
Right. Like nobody who's like, I wrote a book about Jurassic Park, which I don't know why that was.
Michael Crichton has not played
Mm-hmm.
Wrong, a fucked up game show. I would totally have him on as a contestant. I think he might be dead. Is he dead?
I don't have someone to Google it, but the internet will tell us later.
He's tall. I know that.
That's important.
Everybody talks about Michael Crichton being tall.
Oh, it is an interesting thing when people only like when they're like, but he's really small or he's really tall. It's a weird thing that we do with people.
Judge them by their height.
Or just like it establishes something. Your cat that was walking around the background, do you only have one?
No, I have 2. You'll see probably both of them at some point. They're not in their posted up spaces.
I also
They're
have
roaming free right now.
I feel like 2 is what you need to have as a comic. Because
having
you
2
go away,
cats, yeah,
and then they bother each other in a great way.
Exactly. Having 2 cats, my wife framed it to me when we got, because she owned the cat that you just saw walk into frame, Edgar.
Mm-hmm.
She had him before we started dating, and then we moved in together. She was like, we should get a second cat because I feel like he needs a companion, and having 2 cats is basically like having 1 cat.
It's one more litter box. Well,
It's one more litter box.
Supposed to have one more litter box than cats.
Yeah, but
I don't do that. I don't have 3 litter boxes. That's insane.
Come on now. Who has 3 litter? Who has that kind of space?
I have 2 litter boxes, and I don't. I think they both use them both, but one, like, there's the shitter and the pisser. Like
that's how it goes for us. Yeah.
They separate a 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's how our cats have had their distinction.
That's
one's for shit, one's for piss.
That's cool.
Yeah.
We should have that with bathrooms.
Well, I feel like
we don't know what's gonna happen.
We don't know what's gonna happen. Sometimes something sneaks out.
Yeah.
And you don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I take it back. We can keep bathrooms the way they are. I'm okay with bathrooms. So what got you into? You've been doing stand-up forever. What got you into it originally?
I got into stand-up. I was in high school, and I'd always been a fan of comedy ever since I was
cool
like
that
allowed.
You went to high school, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. At high school, one of those things. Not everybody can do it,
They
but
don't, and it's pretty cool.
in high school, I was a comedy fan. I watched a lot of Comedy Central and like Adult Swim, and I was a fan of the Friday night stand up on Comedy Central was something that I watched in like middle school.
Okay, how do you feel about that now? Because it's back out now, like all the reruns. I don't know if
Oh, it
you've gone
is?
back and yeah, I don't know if you've gone back and watch it, and it's like all of our peers. Like it's an
It's very
interesting
surreal. Yeah.
to see people that you're like, I watched you on TV, and now we're doing the same show.
I remember when I started working at the Comedy Store, particularly that
Oh, yeah.
became a thing where I was like, oh yeah, I bought your comedy half hour on iTunes Store when I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
I voted for you in the stand up showdown. It's like, oh yeah, I remember all this stuff. I watched you on Last Comic Standing.
Do you ever
But
tell them?
anyway, Edgar, you come here.
Hey, Edgar.
There he is. He's a big beefy boy.
I'm
He's
so
gonna be
jealous
a
my
good
cat's upstairs.
podcaster. So I, prefacing, I was always been a comedy fan, and then my senior year, one of my best friends, this guy Parker, got a book that a lot of new comics are familiar with called the Comedy Bible.
Mhm.
You, I'm sure, have heard of the Comedy Bible. Judy Carter. He bought it, and it recommended to get a stand-up comedy buddy because he was interested in doing stand-up, and I volunteered. And that's literally how I started to do stand-up. Was just like, I'll do it.
And let me guess, he's not doing stand up, whoever your buddy is.
Correct.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Though he and I do still get together and write, and we just like work on my jokes because he's got a great comedy brain.
That's amazing. That's so
Yeah.
much better. Yeah.
He's so funny. He's like one of the naturally funniest people I have ever met. And so yeah, I've gotta use that to my advantage, that friendship, and keep writing with somebody who I'm like, oh, you're brilliant. I need your help.
My brother is very funny, and he was in prison for a long time, and so I would call him and tell him my jokes, and then him and 100 dudes in prison would write me a letter about tags and stuff, and it was so great because they had nothing to do, and he was
That's
like,
the ultimate writer's room.
yeah,
the
he
yard.
was like, so we've been thinking about it, and we think that it's just so fun. Like, okay, a bunch of dudes really helped write that joke.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So 18, I started the very first open mic I ever did. I was 18. I didn't really start actually like doing it actively until I was 20.
Mm-hmm.
Because by then I was in college. I had a car. I finally was able to like go to open mics and shows. I went to college.
Where was this?
North Carolina.
Okay.
I went to a little liberal arts college in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina, and drove around to do horrible bar and coffee shop open mics and weird bringer shows and stand-up competitions, and once I started being able to like be a part of the community a little bit, I remember there's this one guy I'm eternally grateful to, this guy Alex, who I don't think he does comedy anymore either, but he was like, there was this open mic in Chapel Hill that I would go to every now and again. It was at this cafe. It was a coffee shop called Jack's Brat Cafe. And I remember the first couple times I would go, it was clear that there were like some regulars at the mic. And I was so in the frame of like, well, we're competing against each other. I don't want to be friends with any of these people. I'm going to focus on my shit. Cause I came from a background of doing like competitive speech and debate. So I'm really like in my head about like, no, this is all
I kind of love
just
it. You
for
did
me.
Speech and debate. That's so
Oh
cool.
yeah. My original oratory was my main event.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
hard.
It was, it kind of leads into stand-up very well because it's literally writing a 10-minute persuasive speech
on an opinion. And
on
I
an
think
opinion.
that's what most comics miss when they start, is having an opinion.
Yeah. And and of course when I worked, my coaches were like, you're funny, throw in jokes. And so I had like a couple of jokes here and there that were like, and literally one of them I would use as my opener for years, where I was like, I'm J Light. I have half the calories and fat of regular J, but all the flavor, ladies.
Hey.
And I did a little finger gun and everything. But I remember this guy, Alex, he was like, he was somebody who would keep coming up to me and approaching me when I was being like in my head and in the zone and like not talking to anybody. And
Mhm.
he was like, "Hey, come hang out." And he's the person who like got me into
The
the
hang.
community of comics and the hang. Yeah. And that's when I started to be like, "Oh, we're supposed to like be friends with these people." Oh, okay.
We don't have to hate each other.
We don't
That
know
is, it
what are
is
we doing?
interesting when people don't like other, or when people shit on people in the community. I'm always just, unless they're like, and there's assholes, that's different. Like if someone's a
Sure,
jerk and you don't
yeah.
like them, that's totally different. But like to just hate for hate's sake is always weird to me.
There's no reason to do that. Like
If
it's
someone's funny,
very
I want to like them more. I want to be their
yeah.
friend. Yeah.
We're not here to be fucking misanthropes. We're here because we're all trying to become professionals at telling jokes.
It is an interesting thing though that like there's so many comics now. Like so many. Like
Yeah. We're in
I
the
think
boom.
10 years
Boom
ago
too.
it was like not that many, and now there's like I don't know, hundreds at least, maybe 1,000 in each
I
area. You know
mean,
what I mean?
I think in LA alone, I would say it's a pretty safe bet that there's like between at varying levels of professional,
Hmm.
all the way up from like biggest headliner to like just starting out open micer. I would estimate that there's at least 2,000 people in LA who are doing comedy. Because I still go to mics and stuff, not as often as I used to, because I'm fortunate enough to be like booking shows and being on the road and stuff. But like every time I go to an open mic now, I see
All these people you don't
all
know.
these people I don't know. I've never met. I went to an open mic last week, and the host, you know Mimi Landrew.
Hmm.
So it was her mic, the one at Rock and Riley's, and she introduced me as the most successful person at the open mic. And I'm like, this is a dubious honor, but also like I'm here. I'm doing my new shit. Like
Yeah, who
so is
cares?
everybody else. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, it's a yeah. Open mics are fun. uh, I have to be doing something else at the same time now if I go to one.
Yeah,
Like I either write
same.
tags for people and never tell them. Like just I have to be physically doing something in order to like sit through it. If that
Yeah.
makes sense. It's just to be
I
there.
I pay attention a lot more now to other people's sets than I used to, where because I also like writing tags, but I give people tags.
I won't. I never tell them.
Oh, I love giving people tags. Giving people tags is one of my favorite things to do.
I always, because if I do, then I regret. I feel like they hate me afterwards. So I'm just like, I'll just keep
Why?
it to myself. And then like the few people who know me really well, they'll be like, "Oh, Kim's writing down something. She has a tag." But otherwise, I'm just not saying shit. I'm keeping it.
What I started doing is I'm either giving somebody a tag and thinking about their stuff, or the thing that I noticed about myself in the past couple years is that I have all of this material that I have, developed to varying degrees, but I don't actually sit down and edit it the way that I did when I was first starting out. So now I will go back into my notes and go like, all right, I have a moment. Let's at least edit this material. And then it gets me in a better frame of mind to actually perform, because then
Correct.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I have this new stuff I'd like to try. Oh, maybe I literally just wrote a new tag for myself while I'm editing this joke. Let's try it out at the mic.
Yeah. 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 Mics are for trying stuff. But now you write for Gordon Ramsay, right?
I do. I'm literally on the new season. It's shooting right now of MasterChef.
Did you know how to
Um,
cook before you got that job?
Not really. I mean, I liked cooking, but I was never. I've leveled up my abilities beyond just like I'm gonna make pasta and use like jarred pasta sauce.
That's 100% who I
Yeah,
think when I use good jarred pasta sauce or however you say it, I am impressed that I've upped my game to
yeah. You've
better
gone from ragu to
sauce.
rouse, and all of a
Yeah, I'm like,
sudden your life
it's
has
like
changed.
I buy this cookie dough near me and I chop it up and I feel like I made the cookies from scratch because
Yeah,
I put them in the oven. And that's like, look what I did, but I didn't do. It's like making cereal. It's the same thing.
right. There's a part of me too now though that is. I mean, I grew up. My mom cooked a lot,
Mm.
and there's stuff now that like I go back and sometimes I'll be at home and I'll make something, and I remember some of the things that like that I do. They're like, what are you talking about? But it's one of those things that I'm like, how did you not know that this was a thing you're supposed to do? Like putting pasta.
I guarantee you I don't know this.
You might, if you take when you're making pasta,
Uh-huh.
you're supposed to save some of the pasta water and put it in the sauce
Wow.
because
If
the
you knew how
starch
I made
thickens the
pasta.
sauce.
Okay,
How do
here's
you
how
make pasta?
I'm better at it, but I used to just put the water on the thing and pour the pasta in, and by the time the water boiled, the pasta was kind of ready. I also never
Right.
wait for it to be completely done. If it's crunchy, I'm hungry. And then I drain it. I put the pasta back in the same pan or whatever that is. I pour the sauce on top. I put it in the pan, like it's all in the. I'm only using one pot, is what I'm getting at. There's only one
No,
dish.
this is actually the
That's good.
correct way mostly to do it.
So, I know now
All
you're
you
supposed to boil the water first. That's new to me, but I do know
You don't
that
really
now.
have to. It's one
Hmm.
of those things. There's this guy I used to read all the time, J. Kenji Lopez Alt. He has this thing called the Food Lab that I used to read a lot, and he did a whole test on like whether it's okay to like boil your pasta water ahead of time or put the pasta in while it's boiling. Difference is negligible. You just got to adjust your times. But literally the only thing you're not doing that you should be doing is save some of the pasta water when you drain the pasta and
And
put
put
it in
it.
the sauce when you put the sauce back in with the pasta.
But I probably do that by not draining it 100%. Like, cause I don't have a
You should
strainer. I
do.
do have a strainer, but I don't use it. You know what I mean? Like, there's
You
probably
might
some
be.
that's still in there.
You might be accidentally
I
making
think
pasta
I'm making the
correctly.
best pasta. That's amazing. I love that. So when you got on the show, you already did they ask you like, do you know how to cook? Is that part of it?
No, they
They would.
didn't ask at all. They brought me in. They were looking for a comedy writer
Oh, okay,
for reasons that I didn't understand.
fair.
Edgar, come here. Come here. You're gonna hang out right there while I tell the
Yeah.
story.
Show us your butthole.
Oh no,
Sorry,
no,
I got crasp.
Edgar, stay there. So they brought me in and they were like, so we want the show. I asked them straight up. I was like, I love MasterChef. Why do you guys want a comedy writer? And they're like, well, we want to make the show not funnier, but we want to make it less serious because there's, I think the tendency at the time with cooking shows and reality shows was it was very serious,
Yeah.
and everything in particular on cooking shows always felt very like high drama, and
Which
they
is
wanted to
crazy
lighten
because
it
you
up.
can't taste it. You can't tell.
Right.
There's a guy on it who was on it who is now a comic.
Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you work with him when he was on it?
No, Dan's season was way earlier. Dan was
Oh,
like
okay.
season 7, I want to say, maybe season 6
When they do the
or
like
8.
bring back the old contestants episodes, does anyone come back a diva? You don't have to say names. But like I'm not talking the judges. I'm talking like people who are like I've been brought back.
I wouldn't. It depends on who. Like some people. The thing with MasterChef is
Mm-hmm.
that in America, the winners, the whole premise of the show is that you're supposed to be winning the show and then you're going to change your life by being whatever you were doing before and then turning into a professional food person, whether you're
So
a
you're like
chef or you
gonna
open a
open a
restaurant.
restaurant or work
Yeah.
somewhere. Okay.
They used to literally have like a thing where it was like you get a cookbook deal as part of the prize package.
Oh yeah, didn't they used to work for Ramsey's restaurants or something like that? If they get it, they got to like work.
Occasionally that has happened. That the
Yeah,
first season I was on, that was part of the prize package, was you got a job. You basically get, they call it in cooking, they call it staging, but basically you would be staging at one of Gordon's restaurants for like
what
a
does a
week.
stage mean?
It's French for stage. It's like an audition.
Okay. So you get
Yeah.
so it'd be
So
like
basically you're
in the
auditioning.
comic
Yeah.
world, it would be like
It's
you
like getting a
know,
guest spot.
yeah. Okay, so you get 7 minutes in the kitchen. Got it.
Yeah, you get 7 minutes in the kitchen. If the cook likes you, then they're gonna hire you for feature work.
Great. Can't wait.
To chop celery and shit. Um, But yeah, so that used to be part of the prize package. But then also, so a lot of the contestants over the history of the show's been on, we're shooting 15th season right now.
Yeah, that's so many.
A lot of the contestants have not gone on to have that kind of success over the years, where it's not necessarily like a level of success, but sometimes they just like don't pursue it at all.
Right.
And
They
they
just
don't.
decide that they didn't like cooking
Right.
for other
So,
people.
yeah. So
Yeah.
there's some people who have become really successful. And whenever we have those people back on, they're super cool.
Mm-hmm.
They're the chillest. And then we've had times in my run of the show where we've had people who have come back who are like newer winners, who are sort of in that phase of like they're not like being tough to work with, but you can tell they're still figuring out like, okay, I just won this thing. What do I actually want to do with the fact that I
What do
just
I?
won this show?
What do I get? Give me
Yeah.
my Instagram followers. Let's go.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like, I'm doing great. I'm trying to do this and this and this. And sometimes it's like, hey, I don't really know still.
I
I'm working
almost
it out.
was it the pandemic maybe? Was almost on that show where it's like the worst bakers,
Worst cooks
whatever
in
that is.
America. Yeah.
Yeah, I got down to the end and that little audition, I cried and I never cry. And my husband was laughing so hard in the
Wow.
background about me crying, which was I made cookies and I put them in so I was trying to make cookies, but I couldn't figure it out. So I have one of those like sandwich makers that you put grilled cheese sandwiches in, or
Yeah.
like the thing that drains all the fat for burgers.
The George Foreman grill.
Yeah, I was making cookies in a George Foreman.
Oh my
And
God.
it worked. It worked so good though.
Kim,
It's so good. Anyways,
Gordon would be so furious with you.
oh, I
Right?
know.
I'm
He would yell
furious
at
on
me.
his behalf.
I would cry. I couldn't be. I would cry the second he'd be like, "This is crunchy." I'd be like, "Yeah, I know, but I'm hungry now." Like I've never had to cook for anybody but myself, so it's not like my husband doesn't eat my food. No, it's just for me.
I've started to become more of somebody who's like cooking for multiple people, because also now I'm like, I've learned stuff just by osmosis of watching the show.
But
So
kitchens
might
in
as well
LA
put
are
that into
so
the thing.
small too. That's the other thing.
Yeah,
They need bigger kitchens, I think.
you can be efficient with your space.
Yeah. Okay. I can be.
All that matters. I mean, we lucked out. My wife's dad is a carpenter,
Mm-hmm.
and last year he came into town for Thanksgiving, and we were like, hey, can you help us build stuff? And he built us new countertops.
Oh, that's amazing.
He like went to a lumber yard in Pasadena and got this really nice butcher block and like added a shitload of counter space to our kitchen now.
That's great.
So
now you're cooking.
but it's just about using your space. It's about using it efficiently.
What's your
Most
favorite
matters.
thing to eat?
To eat? I'm a sucker. I mean, I'm a sucker for a burger. I love a burger. I love a burger anywhere, anytime. I could eat burgers all day, every day. Give them to me. They're so good. They're bad for you, but they're
Really?
so good. Well, you
I
probably.
can't tell what's good or bad for you anymore. I really can't. Everything's confusing.
I think it's about. I mean, this is the way it is with any food, but like your average burger, I think is probably. I'm talking like fast food. Like I would love
Okay,
a
that's
fast
different.
food
I know
burger.
fast food is bad, but if it's
Fast
like
food's
good
super bad.
burger,
If it's good meat, yeah, sure. But also, like that much red meat is also not super great for you as a person. Like my wife's vegetarian, so I have become not a full vegetarian, obviously, but like I don't have as much meat in the house normally as I even did before when I was living alone or with roommates.
Of course, yeah, it makes sense because
And
you have to eat it all.
I'm not making food. Yeah, I'm not making meat.
Yeah.
And I have found good vegetarian recipes that I like, which is nice.
Yeah. Salads are good. I know that those are good.
Oh, we're talking beyond salads.
Oh,
We're talking, you ever roast some veg?
no. Why would I cook a vegetable? What's the
It makes
point?
it taste better.
No, it's crunchy and it's ready.
No.
If I cut up an apple, I think I've done something. I'm not gonna lie. When it comes to cooking, it is the easier the better.
You want to know a fun fact? Roasting vegetables is actually one of the easiest things you can do.
Not roasting it is the easiest thing you could do.
Not roasting it is the easiest thing, sure. But
yeah.
Turning on the oven, setting it to like 400, putting some broccoli on a sheet tray, putting a little salt, pepper, and olive oil on it, throwing it in the oven for like 15 minutes. It's nothing. And then all of a sudden you got tasty, delicious broccoli.
The only thing that has ever been inside my oven is cookies
And you're not even really putting your cookies in there. You're putting them on the
and
George Foreman grill.
pizza.
Like a lunatic.
No, not now. Now that was this pandemic. I got good. I put them in the oven now. Apparently, I have a nice oven, says my sister. I don't know anything about any of it. She's very excited about my oven. She's like,
I
"This
want to
is an
see a
old
picture
school
of your
oven."
oven.
It's like supposedly really nice. I don't know. It's an oven. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't auto do it. Like when AI makes little AI cooks, I'm in. That'll be the first thing I buy.
An AI chef?
Mm-hmm.
An AI robot?
Yeah. I don't know if it'll be the robot or the oven will be AI. And you just like have all these buttons of like, what did you put on the tray?
Oh, I mean, they are starting to kind of get there with like air fryers.
Yeah. You just tell it what it is.
You fuck around with an air fryer at all? I feel like you seem
Never
like an
had
air
one.
fryer type of
I've
lady.
never had one. I've never had any of the things that go in a kitchen. I just bought a spatula for my eggs.
Wow.
I'm really growing up in front of you. It's pretty
How do you
impressive.
eat your eggs?
Burnt. I like them burnt, though. I like them burnt.
Good.
Why? What's wrong with that?
No, nothing's wrong. I also like, that's the way I like my eggs. My wife thinks I'm a freak because I like my eggs very hard.
Yeah, I like mine brown, like where it's like you're worried that I started a fire, but it's how I like it. I like I want it to be no goo. I don't want to taste any like softness.
You don't want any sloppy, slimy eggs. You like Jesco White.
Oh, I'm worried about it. Fun. So you also have your show Wrong, which is a game show where people get on and then you find dirt on them.
Yes.
That's great. Have you ever found any dirt on somebody that you didn't air because you're like, okay, that's too much?
Oh, yeah. All the time. What? Literally almost every single time we do the show, we find some crazy shit. And we're like, okay, we can't go that route. But let's dial it back a little bit.
Is it like porn or like that's where my mind went immediately? It was like someone did a porn or like
I've never found porn of anybody. I would imagine at some point it is probably bound to happen.
Yeah, especially now with OnlyFans and like generationally it's changing. Yeah.
I mean I found a lot of really, really crazy shit that people, because one of our games is we go on people's social media and find stuff that they said years and years ago.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
And we know how to find deleted tweets.
Wait, that's a thing?
Yeah.
People are in trouble.
The internet never forgets. And we find some shit that definitely I can see why they deleted it. And we're like, can we do this? Can we post this? No, we don't actually. Because the thing is, I don't actually want to like
hurt them. Yeah.
Hurt anybody's feelings.
Mm-hmm. Do you tell them afterwards? You're like, by the way, I found this tweet. You're always gonna need to be worried about it.
Nah.
No.
I just let them live blissfully unaware.
That's so nice of you.
Yeah.
I deleted X when it became X on my phone because I didn't know that it became X. And so the little photo changed on my phone. And then I was like, I didn't download this app. And I thought it was somebody like my phone. And I just deleted it because I was like, what is this in my phone? And so I don't know. I probably have one. I found out I had a Patreon, which is what this will be on now. I've had a Patreon for 2 years. Didn't really post on it. And I have all these people who have continued to support me. So I am giving back with podcasting.
That's so
now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Maybe
folks.
I'll buy an air fryer with all of my subscribers.
We have found... we found, we've found like people's old news stories. We found people's Yelp accounts. We found people's Reddit accounts that I think they forgot that they made.
That's fair. I've never had any of those, so I feel like I'd be safe in that area.
Yeah, I think everything. Well, that's the thing is we always find something on somebody.
That's crazy.
Like no matter how sanitized you think that your online life is, we will find something to make you squirm about, because that's the whole point of the show.
Well, of course, that's the fun though, is to see how you found anything.
Exactly.
When you do a show at the store and it's monthly, is it always the same, like third weekend or second weekend, so those who are listening can get tickets?
First Saturday of every month at 11:45 p.m. We're in the late night weirdo slot,
Because it's
which I
gonna get
love.
gonna get weird.
It's gonna get weird. It continues to get weird and always gets weird.
Have you ever had any guests up there or anything like that? Like audience?
Um, audience, audience guests. What do you mean?
Like, do they ever just get up? Like, do you have someone who live researches anybody? That's probably really hard to
Oh,
do.
um, the way the format works, we probably would not be able to do that if we had a budget to like make more cool live shit happen. Then yeah, but we do this one game with our audience at the very beginning of the show, called Worst Week, where we basically get audience members to submit the fucked up thing that happened to them this week, why their week was fucked up, and we have a audience vote of who had the most fucked up week
That's
based
fun.
on the thing that happened to them, and then
Does
everybody gets a prize.
does the comic do a bit on that?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
I mean, sometimes they talk about it. We've gone through various phases of the show where like that round has been in different places on the show. Sometimes it was at the end, sometimes it was at the very beginning, sometimes we didn't have it at all. Um, we were not doing it for like, because the show's been going on about 2.5 years. We had probably a good year and a half where we were not doing that round at all. And then we went to Edinburgh Fringe. We kept getting all these people in for the show who were like, oh, it's a game show. I would like to win a prize.
fair.
And then we did the show a couple times and they're like, well, where's our prize? We want to win a prize. So then we were like, I guess we should bring this back
Yeah,
so that people can win a prize.
yeah, and then they need
So
it
there
the
you go.
most if they had the worst week.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's very fair. And you used to do a lot of. I don't know if you still do roast battle.
Yes, which is sort of where the inspiration for like the show came from in a lot of ways. Because I do actually have, I haven't done it in a while, but I am doing a roast battle again for the first time in like 6 or 7 years on
You're
New
gonna
Year's
battle
Eve.
somebody?
I
Okay.
am.
New Year's Eve. Wow, that's great.
Julian Fernandez, New Year's Eve show. I'm very excited to battle
That's,
them.
are you doing 5 rounds? I'm guessing, or do they put you
No,
all the way back at the
just
beginning?
just 5 jokes. We're the
Okay.
main event.
Oh, okay.
I don't know which main of the mains. I don't know what the rest of the lineup looks like that night, but just 5 jokes, keeping it easy. But anyway, so yeah, like I got asked because I used to do shows at the Pack Theater a lot, and after COVID, they were starting to do live stuff again, and they're like, "Hey, would you like to produce a roast show with us? We're interested in doing a roast." I was thinking, I was like, I don't know if I want to do that because I have such a strong tie to roast battle that I'm like, I don't want to be perceived as like aping the style, stepping on anyone's toes, anybody in that kind of a vein. And so I was like, I also don't want to do regular stand-up show, but maybe I can do something else. So then I was like, what is a game show that is difficult to play if you're a contestant on the show?
Right.
Because we're putting you in an uncomfortable position. And how can I use my ability that I know from roast battle of like how to dig deep and find shit on people?
Oh yeah. Oh, that probably does make you a good roaster. Now you're probably even a better roaster because you have all this extra knowledge on how to look up stuff.
Oh yeah. And now I mean literally, it's fun diving back in. Every time we do the show, it's like great, I get to do this research and find all this weird shit on people. But now that I'm back in roasting again, I'm like, to prep for Julian, I'm listening to old podcasts. I'm watching old roast battles and YouTube videos and stuff. I'm like, wow, this is really fun to dig deep like this and find shit to talk about.
What's your thoughts on people like if a new comic is listening and they want to get into roast battling? What would your like math or recommendations be for them?
I mean, if you're listening and you want to do roast battle, give it a shot. If you're listening and you don't even think you want to do roast battle, but you're looking for a good writing exercise, that's what roast battle at its heart is. Like I got into roast battle not knowing if I was going to be good at it or not, but I was just like, this seems fun. I'd like to try it. It kind of scared me when I was first hanging out because I started hanging out at roast battle like when it was still an open mic.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because it used to be an open mic, and then they would do a roast battle at midnight, and then they'd go back to the open mic for like the last half hour of the show.
Can you imagine doing your hot 3 minutes after roast battle? What a
Oh my
weird.
god, it was very weird. I mean,
You
it was a
just-
really weird time.
yeah.
But I was
Hard.
like hanging out, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be good at this at all. I don't think of myself as a particularly mean person, but I will try it out. And then I did it, and I was good at it. I was like, oh, it's not about being mean or
I
nice.
think
It's
that's
just
the
about
part
being
people
a good
mess up on.
writer.
Yeah, it's about being funny and not
And
mean.
that I think is the most important thing is like be funny. That's all that really matters. You can say a joke. I think you can say a joke about anything you want, but it has to be funny. And that's
Right.
the toughest bar to clear, especially when you're dealing with a really like touchy subject or really like mean thing that you're saying about somebody. Roasting in particular, the joke, if it's going to be mean, it's got to be funnier than it is mean.
Right. Yeah, funnier than mean is that's the best way to word it, I think. What
Yeah.
do you think of people who hire other comics to write their roast battle jokes to win?
I mean, hey, if you're paying well.
That's always such a weird to me. Roast battle was always a writing exercise and then proving that you're a good writer, so then it does lead to writing gigs for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so if you're hiring somebody else to write for you and then somebody's like,
It's
"Hey,
antithetical.
will you be a writer on my show?" Well, you've never written your own stuff. Are you going to have this ghostwriter on the, I guess you could.
I think to some degree it's like if you're just doing roast battles in like your local scene, don't have other people write your jokes for you. Like, sure, run your jokes by your friends
Oh,
the way
yeah, and
that
if
you
someone
probably
gives you a
would anyway.
tag or whatever, yeah, that's
Exactly.
different.
But like don't have somebody write your whole set for you. Cuz that's I mean, like I said, unless you got the money to pay, which like I saw a battle a couple weeks ago. I was a judge. There's this guy I'll name names. I don't give a fuck. Vito Glazers. He battled this lady Fujiko, who's a battler from Chicago, who's in town. And Vito is like brand new at stand up. And his whole social media presence based on this is how much I give a shit about like digging in on people is just to like look people up. His whole social media presence is literally he's got like a couple 100,000 followers on Instagram, and he's like, I make rich people famous and famous people rich. I'm like a CEO of like bibbity bobbity blah. He has money. If he's the kind of guy who like wants to hire people to write his jokes for him, just pay well. But that guy also did not hire anybody to write his jokes, and his jokes were
Good
so
for
bad.
him. Good
His
for him
jokes were
though for
terrible,
trying
So
and
he's
he'll
got the honor for me.
yeah, he can hire people next time.
Maybe if he ever battles again, which he might not.
Oh, it was bad.
It was bad. It was that bad.
Okay. Well, that's fun to watch. That's one of the things that I do like about comedy in general is I love when it's really, really good, and I love when it's really, really bad.
That's the other thing that keeps me going at open mics is when it is so bad.
Yeah, I love it. I
Watching
know
bad comedy.
I do too. I wish I could have a show where it's like, hey, secretly I hired half of these people because they're the worst. Like something, or like one of these comics I think is the worst. But then I feel like everyone would figure out who it is really fast.
Yeah. There's this thing. Do you laugh openly at really bad comedy?
Sometimes it depends.
Okay.
It depends on how. If it's shocking, probably. If it's just like a dude being like, "I fucked a woman," then I'm just like, ugh. Like if it's a hacky, then I'm not as laughy.
There's this one guy when I was first starting out. So like I said, I started in North Carolina, and I would occasionally, when I was back for like summer or like, in between semesters in Dallas visiting my folks, there would be open mics that I would go to in Dallas. And there's this one guy at the open mic at Hyenas who I saw all the time. His name, I think, was Matt White. It was definitely Matt something. There are a couple Matt Whites that I've met in the history of comedy. This is the Texas one, not the North Carolina one. I don't know why the North Carolina Matt White would be listening to this podcast.
Just in case, cover it.
But he was I have to get up. I'm going to do an act out of what he did.
I love this.
Because he would get on stage and he would have 3 minutes, and then he would get up and he would walk all the way. He would go on stage. His time would start. He would walk all the way to one side of the stage, and then he would say something like, I really love titties. And then he would hold.
I would laugh out loud right there.
And then he walked across to the other side of the stage. And then he would go, there's just something about them. I love when they're really big.
I would laugh out loud at that guy.
And we were laughing out loud at that guy because we were like, "What is this guy doing? There's no way that this guy is doing this
But I
out
can
of."
see that guy going on the road with that. Like that's the problem is like there's a road for bad comics too. Not
There
the
is,
headline. You can't do an hour of that. But
but that's yeah. But I remember like we watched him a couple times, and I've seen this guy a couple times, and it became clear that like the people laughing at him and not
right.
with him was giving him like negative reinforcement, and he
Yeah.
started to do variations on that set that were just actually bad, and nobody was laughing. And I was like, buddy, you gotta have
Get
just a little teeny bit of self-awareness.
That's yeah, people have to understand why people are laughing at them.
Yeah,
I think sometimes then you
it's the
just
laughing
listen
at or with, and you
yeah.
got to be able to tell the difference.
Yeah, and maybe watch yourself back. But also if someone did it and they were a good writer and they pause like that, I would laugh
Yeah,
because it's just
it'd be
so
totally different.
it's just
But
fun.
it's the same thing as like whenever you're new, if you're getting the laugh based on shocking somebody into laughing, or you're getting the laugh because it's actually funny.
Yeah.
What did Sarah Silverman say? The laugh with blood in the mouth. Like, I'm okay with getting that kind of a laugh
I don't know what
because
laugh with the blood in the mouth would mean.
it's
Like,
the laugh where it's like you don't want to laugh at it, but you don't have a choice because it is that inarguable of a joke.
oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. That's a good joke then.
That's a good joke. I've had jokes like that where I'm like, that's one of my favorite kinds of jokes to write. Like, I don't go for it all the time, but if it occurs to me, I'm like, there we go. I'm going there. I'll keep it.
Yeah, it just I like yeah, I don't have anything that's necessarily off topic in my mind. It's just I can't open on certain things. Or I'm like, "Oh, I can't start on that." But that's about it.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I
No,
got
that's because you're sane.
well, yeah, and I don't want people to run away. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. If you could do stand up in any place, where would you want to do it?
Ooh. Okay. Let me ask a question to clarify your question. Do you mean like like a location, like a city, or like a venue, or like full time
Let's
to
do
be like
all of
a
it.
dream doing comedy? Okay. I will say my favorite, if there was a way in which I could make a living being a comedian in Tokyo,
Mm.
my experience there last year, I had a fucking blast. I had the greatest time in Tokyo, even though I was only there for 5 days. Um, there's no way it could happen, I don't think, but it would be so cool because the Tokyo Comedy Bar, that venue out there is great. They've got good audiences, a very cool scene. And Tokyo, I think, is the best city in the world,
Did
bar
you
none.
do it in English?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a mostly English language comedy club. They have 1 or 2 nights a week that are Japanese shows, but it's mostly English.
That's cool.
Yeah, a lot of expats, a lot of people who are like learning English, testing it out.
That's
There's
fun.
yeah, well, because if you can understand jokes in a language, then that's like the highest level of understanding that language.
Yeah, I've known a few people who have gotten into comedy to try to learn English.
Yeah, it's not a bad move.
Sometimes they're very funny too.
City wise, I mean, I love LA, but I don't see myself living here forever. At some point, I do think I'm going to move to New York, and I would like to see the rest of my comedy life there.
Their scene is really cool out there.
It's a great, and I've always appreciated the approach to New York comedy.
Everybody, yeah, you can get up. There's so many clubs, all pretty much in the same area, depending
Yeah,
on what you're doing. And
I
then
mean, you just
it's
feel
just
like an
funny
artist out
wins.
there.
It's just
Yeah,
funny wins. It's not. I think LA, you get bumped for famous people, which is fair. If I was a
fair.
tourist, I would want to see blank come in. Like, totally fair. I think in New York, if you get bumped, it's because blank is here and they're fucking hilarious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not as often.
Yeah. As far as like if it was like a dream venue, man, I don't know. I feel I mean, I can't, there's nowhere that really like comes to mind as like, oh, I have to perform at this place. I'm trying to think if there's anywhere that is like
I've always
for
wanted to do, I don't
sure.
know if it's location based, but I've always wanted to do an hour where like 100 people come out and flash mob dance 45 minutes in for no real reason, and it's never really addressed. Just like maybe the entire audience is dancers, and they all just stand up and start dancing for
That's
zero
funny.
reason. Kind of like the Eminem. Remember in the VMAs when he had like all the people dressed like him come in, and it was like, "Will the real Slim Shady please stand up?"
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like
yeah.
want that. I don't know why though.
I feel, I mean, I say this just because I've been in the game long enough to have performed at like different sizes of venues. The only kind of venue I've never performed at, I guess there's two, where it's like an arena and a really big theater. Like I've done smaller size theaters. I've done, you know, every various size comedy room imaginable. And I feel like, to me, I always just love like a little dingy basement room, you know,
Yeah,
or a place where everybody's packed. Like this is what the Tokyo
it's
Comedy
like why
Bar.
you like the belly room at the
It's why I
store
love the
and the
belly room. Yeah.
lab at the Improv.
The lab I've come around on, because the lab used to be the worst room in comedy, and now the
I
lab is
love that's
actually.
my favorite room.
I always had the heart. I hated the lab for such a long time. Now I've come
Those
around a lot.
pillars are so in the way. Like I love it
It's
for the
so
whole
weird.
like
It's such a weird layout.
it's to me a darker room. Like I don't know. And there's a bar there, which I also like because people
Yeah.
don't have to pay attention to you. So it's kind of like a perfect mix in that
Yeah.
it's difficult to do. Like it's like, can you get them to pay attention?
But I remember like one of my favorite. I just was in Austin and I just did this room Black Rabbit for the first time, and that to me is, again, this like this sort of ideal comedy room where it's like super low ceilings. If you pack it out, it can probably fit like maybe 100, probably closer to like 80. And all the walls are black. It's red lighting around the stage, and then the spotlight on the stage. Ideal comedy setup. The night I was there were maybe like 30 people in the audience. It was insane. It
That's
felt
fun.
massive. And
There's
that's,
this like
yeah.
I've done some shows where um I'm not gonna say the person's name, but they were headlining, and so I was either hosting and I actually was hosting and featuring because they didn't sell enough tickets, and it was a 600 seat venue, and they sold like 10.
Damn.
And it was like, okay. By the time the headliner got up, it was like 20 people. I will say that, but I was like, okay,
That's a little better.
each one of you is gonna get your own private joke. Let's go down the line. Like it was like, how do you make this an experience for people not to feel bad? Because I also don't like it when comics get up and are like, this is it, this is all that's here, and it's like you're shitting on the people who paid to show up.
Yeah, the people are there. Give
Why
them
are
a
you-
fucking show.
Who cares? It's always a weird thing to me when people like I run a mic every Monday, 8 to 10, and we always have real audience. But there's almost always one comic who gets up and is like, "How am I supposed to do crowd work to other comics?" And it's like, there's
Just
real
ask
audience in
the
here.
questions, and there's real
But
audience.
There's real audience in here. Usually they just hide in the back because it's more comics than audience, yes. But there's always like 5 to 10 people in that room. Is so tight. If it's 10, it's amazing. But like audience wise, it's usually packed with comics, which is fun. I think it's fun.
Right. I think it's fun too. I'll say this: the one place now that I've had some chance to think about it, I think that the place that I would like to perform the most that I have not is the OG Comedy Cellar in New York. But like again, that's
I was
another
afraid
room
to
where
go to
it's
the
like,
bathroom the first time I went there.
oh my god,
Just to like
same.
walk by, it's like.
But there's literally like a room like that. If you are shitting on the size of the crowd, if it's a smaller room, then like you're doing, not only doing yourself a disservice, but you're doing them a disservice. Like the whole point. I remember years ago when I was still working the door at the store, there was a summer before Leslie Jones was on SNL, and she was coming to hang out a lot. And she would always like chop it up in the back with everybody, all the door guys, and whoever's hanging around at the mics or whatever. And she talked about like the reason she got SNL is because when she was a paid regular early on, she was getting all these late night spots, and you perform for literally like 2 people sometimes. But you have to give those 2 people a show. You have to get those people to be on board with you. And then you go in for the SNL audition, and it's literally 2 people. It's Lorne and then whatever other producer, like the head writer or somebody. So you're training yourself to be better in a situation as a performer by learning how to give it your all for a small audience. Those people deserve a show just as much as anybody else. The same thing, Edinburgh Fringe. Every time I've gone there and had a small audience, every time I've done a show, no matter what, because I'm like, I know these people are here because they showed up, so I'm gonna give them a fucking show.
I agree with that 100%. 100%. And like Whitney Cummings used to do, I don't know if she still does, but Flappers Yoo-Hoo Room with like 6 people. I was there one time where there's literally 6 people in the audience, and Whitney came in, and I was like, if she could do it, why would anybody have an ego about it then?
God, I miss the Yoo-Hoo Room. I should go back to the Yoo-Hoo Room.
Apparently, and I don't know if I haven't been, so I don't know, but apparently they're doing shows in the bar area now too, like paid shows where people have to pay. I don't know if they have to. I don't know. I don't see what that is. That's an interesting, not like a room.
Worth investigating. Worth putting my veils back in it.
Have you done ice? Have you done the Ice House?
Yeah.
I haven't done it since it reopened yet.
I did the OnlyFans taping there back in January or February. And then I've been there a little bit since then.
Cool.
I heard it's down the street from me.
Oh, great.
It's nice. It's really nice. Beautiful redesign.
I should go check it out. Yeah. Well, very cool. Thanks for joining me today. For those of you who have no idea, when we first started, it was a mess.
I think most people would have no idea because we didn't reference it at all. We smooth sailed right into this.
And I told everybody, don't tell me your secrets, because I'm going to tell everybody right after. That's what I learned.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us. Where can everybody follow you? Obviously, your show, you said at the store.
Yes. We're monthly at the Comedy Store, first Saturdays. At Wrong Game Show is where you can see info about the show and clips and stuff. And at Diet J on all the social media.
They can send you recipes to pass on to Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, send me recipes. I will have Gordon take a look at them in his free time. Now, I will say this: does Gordon have a lot of free time? Nope.
I mean, he pops out babies like I don't even know.
I remember we came back from Thanksgiving last year, and he had been like, look what I did over the break, and he had another child, and we were like, Gordon, that's wild.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Nannies are great. I hope he has several.
I hope so too.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, Kim. You have a great weekend.
Thanks. Enjoy, everybody. Bye. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.